Good evening, Dr. Jameson and my fellow classmates. Ben Coggins here from Gastonia, North Carolina, talking about the plasticity of the brain as it relates to the family system, trauma, and the larger context. I could spend a lot of time trying to talk about the brain, which I do in some of my classes where I work, about how the brain's affected by drugs and alcohol. So, I understand about the synapses, the serotonin levels, and how drugs come in and kind of hijack the brain and everything, but you're not wanting to hear about the physiological parts of the brain today. What I'm here to talk about is how the effects of a person being traumatized brain can be healed so that they can be more functional in society. I think I did hear one comment that I guess describes the process of the brain, that the brain that fires together wires together. So if I take that in context with the question here regarding the family system, trauma, in the larger context, I'm going to say that the family who prays together stays together. So the person who wants to get better can get better, even though it may take a fair amount of time, so that traumatization is not incurable. A person can recover from it. It just takes it's a slow process. A person will need help from a clinician or a therapist like ourselves, and the biggest thing is that healing can come through understanding. A person that understands about their trauma from their past can feel more in charge of their destiny, so to speak, if they understand their past trauma and maybe some upcoming events, and learn how to cope with them, just like an alcoholic and addict does. They have to be aware of their triggers and develop coping skills so that they can be better functional and not return to their old ways of doing the same old thing, getting the same old results. But anyway, the overall process having to do with trauma in the larger context, I would guess, well, not really guess, but traumatized individual needs a safe place where they feel safe. They need to be around safe people, and they need safe situations. So I got robbed one time when I was a McDonald's manager, and it made me think about this. Before I got hit in the head with a tire tool, a man ran up behind me, and I remember hearing the steps, and I turned around. He says, "Give me what you got, or you're going to get it." And he hit me in the head with a tire tool, and blood shot out of my head. So when I hear people run up behind me, I kind of get like the dander on a dog's back kind of goes up. My radar goes up, but I'm aware that I'm not going to get robbed. But I hear the footsteps coming up behind me, and usually they pass me. So I'm aware. It reminds me of getting robbed, but I know how to deal with it. I don't get defensive. I don't turn around and become aggressive toward anybody who runs up behind me, because I've learned that that was just probably a one-time thing that happened in my life. I don't have a bag of money when somebody's running up behind me, so these things have helped me get over that kind of thing. So a person that has trauma in their life can learn different skills. I know older people don't have as many neurons in their brain as younger people, and I know all the physiological things that go along the brain, which I could probably talk 30 minutes about that. But the part of this thing is that I learned how to overcome trauma, even though it might take some time, where my clients can overcome trauma even though it takes some time, and be able to function in society, and they can go to recovery groups or continue talking to therapists if need be, but to give them a sense of empowerment over their life, that they don't have to be the victim anymore. Thank you. Have a good evening.